it is Nikki. Welcome back to the channel to talk about what I have just discovered might be one of my favorite tropes of all time. So what do the latest Star Wars series, Planet of the Apes, Jurassic Park, and Cormac McCarthy's The Road have in common? For one, they all feature children in main roles, but more specifically, they all feature an adult character who is thrown in with a child that may or may not be his, has to undergo a ton of perils with this kid, and in the process develops a soft spot for the kid that is just so adorable every single time. I saw a Dirk Bogarde movie a little while back. It was when I was in my A Tale of Two Cities phase. This was like a 1950s-ish black and white British movie about a criminal who commits a crime and then realizes that a little kid saw him do it, so then he has to take the little kid with him on the run. And of course, in the process, he develops a soft spot for the kid that like has a dramatic effect on his character, and it's just so cute. Until I started planning this video, I did not remember what it was called, but I looked it up. It's called Hunted. I remember really liking it, and now I know why, because I absolutely adore this trope. Now, I will be straight with you. I tend not to like parent-child character dynamics in stories. There are very few stories, books, or movies that I can think of where I actually liked the parents as characters and didn't just find them irritating. Which sounds terrible. Like, parents are amazing. I love my parents. I just feel like parent characters don't always translate that well into stories, which is probably why we have a book industry that is full of characters who are orphans or separated from their parents or have evil parents, because if you have nice parents around in your story, then you need to explain what they're doing there. What is their role? Are they just hanging out at the homestead while they send off their child to go save the world? Often I think they're used to like give advice. Often I think they're also just there to be killed off so that they can jumpstart the main character's growth. And that can be tricky because if we, the reader, are not invested in the parent, then when they die, the MC is really upset, and we're supposed to be upset too. We can't really relate to that character's pain if we weren't really that attached to the parent. Which sounds, again, terrible, but readers can be savages. Let's just be real. This kind of goes for like a parent figure, but also for a mentor figure, and the mentor trope is another one that I'm not really that crazy about, but that is another video for another time. This is not just a rant about parent characters. I do not wish that every character in the world was an orphan. That would be terrible. No, absolutely not. I am just saying that I think parent characters are actually surprisingly tricky to write in a way especially that young readers can be invested in, which is why I really like it when they take that parent-child dynamic and shake it up a bit. Hence, the adult in peril thrown in with a child who melts through their hard exterior and exposes the softy underneath trope. Does this trope have a name? Somebody please let me know in the comments because I do not know what to call it. Here's what I love about it. For one, it's usually not, or at least not always, their actual biological kid. They've kind of just been thrown in together in this perilous situation. You get some of these really hilarious, like, snippy moments where the adult gets fed up with like, oh, this kid, but keeps protecting them anyway. That's important to me because I have a weird thing about like sappy stuff. I am a full-blown romantic, but for some reason, fluffy moments between parent characters and child characters just do not work for me. Like, they kind of weird me out. And like, I have a great relationship with my parents. Like, I adore my parents. I don't know what this says about me, but even in the past, I've written stuff that's like overly fluffy between a parent and child, and just, it never sat well. I've since gone back and rewritten it to make it still meaningful and show the bond between them, but just more subtle, less heavy-handed, which is another thing that I like about this trope, because I feel like in general, not always, but in general, I think the bond and the relationship between them is often shown more through action than through words. So if you look at characters like, I don't know, Caesar from Planet of the Apes, or even Alan Grant from the first Jurassic Park movie, they're not super touchy-feely characters. You know, they've got a job to do, they're trying to survive something, they're maybe not really super kid-friendly characters, and because of that, the parent-child dynamic becomes more a matter of doing love than saying love. So like, they still have to take care of the kid, protect or rescue the kid, comfort the kid, even if it's just in like a super practical, sort of awkward way, and that's how we see the bond. It doesn't need to be verbalized or like shown through like really kind of on-the-nose dialogue. We see the bond playing out, usually really gradually, and I just really love that. And now that I think about it, one of the things that might make this trope work, at least for me, is that the focus is usually or often more on the guardian than on the kid, but let me see if that's true. Jurassic Park, Mandalorian. It might not be true, because in The Road I feel like the focus is sort of equally on both of them. So let me rephrase. What I like about this trope, compared to say a young adult where you have a young main character and if there's a parent, they're just kind of like in the periphery. In this trope, I feel like the focus is either equally on guardian and child, or more on the guardian and the character development happening in the guardian as a result of the child. So like if you look at the Dirk Bogarde movie, which now I kind of want to watch again, in it, he's a criminal. So like he's like a bad guy at the beginning. He's not a nice person, but by the end, because of the tenderness he feels for this kid, he's actually grown a lot morally. And that's what we're watching. Like, that's what we as the viewer are invested in. The kid doesn't change that much, but he does. Same with Caesar. He's like an alpha character who can usually handle everything by himself, but this kid is introduced to kind of show and teach him that it's okay to need help from other people or to rely on others. So we're watching him and we love his growth, but you also love the kid because of the growth she is causing in him. I like that because it means that the guardian is not just like in the way. Like, I feel like that's my biggest issue with guardian figures in young adult stories. The parent tends to be like an obstacle, like they're the voice of reason trying to stop the MC from doing the thing that we all know they have to go do, or they're the cause of the MC's baggage. In one of my favorite stories, the main character is this really capable, like, warrior with honor type figure, and then his dad enters the story and becomes basically this like nagging voice of disapproval that is trying to turn him into something that he's not. The MC is invested in his dad, but I, as the reader, was not. I was just annoyed with him, like, you're trying to ruin a perfectly good character. And that's my biggest issue with those types of characters in stories. So this trope kind of fixes that problem because it brings the guardian to the foreground. The guardian is one of the people that we're invested in and cheering for, so they're not an obstacle to the plot, they are the plot. I hope that makes some kind of sense. When I was planning this video, I was just kind of riffing on how I feel about this topic. I do want to say that one book that did this really well, book and movie actually, was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. The parent characters in that story are so good. Down to earth, they're funny, they're relatable, they're raw and real, and I feel like the biggest thing is that they felt like they were characters in their own right, characters that I could be invested in. They didn't just exist to be parents. They weren't just contrived there to be parents for the child characters. They were their own characters that I could love. And I feel like book and movie both did this so well. Whenever I think about writing a dynamic like this, I think I will always look to Wonder as an example because I think it was just such a stellar example. Honestly, I'm a little nervous about writing parent-child dynamics going forward. I have some coming up in my story as my main characters have kids who then become main characters. That's usually a trope that I really don't like in stories, but it's necessary to the plot. And I think that if I stick to the model of like this unnamed trope, the more guardian-child dynamic, I might be able to pull off a relationship between a parent figure and a child figure that allows both of them to be equally endearing, equally important, equally awesome. We'll see. I'm a little nervous about that. In the meantime, though, I love this trope. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment below with how you feel about the guardian child trope. I love it. Don't know if you noticed. That is all from me, but as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.